Hi everyone, it's Lindy from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to create some really fun ornaments using lots of products from Hero Arts, but I also wanted to show you a really fun technique that you can use to create some marbleized background paper, and we're going to be using it to create our ornaments today. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've got a few simple supplies. I've got a little stack of paper plates. I've got some shaving cream here. I'm just using something that my husband had, so any kind of shaving cream I believe will work just fine. And then we want some watercolor paints. I'm going to be using the Hero Arts liquid watercolors in Strawberry and Indigo today. And these are nice because they have the little droppers, so it's going to make it really easy to apply that ink onto the shaving cream. And then I've also got the Hero Arts Glimmer metallic inks in gold and pewter. So let's set those aside. And then I also wanted to show you that I've got my stencil pal. These are from Deco Foil, and I've got two come in the packaging, so this is going to make it really nice. We don't have to keep cleaning that same one. Now I've got also some glossy cardstock. We're going to start with the glossy cardstock, but you will see in the end I am going to switch over to my Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. So I've placed that shaving cream onto the paper plate, and I'm adding some little drops of color. So I've got the strawberry and the indigo, and again you can see these have these nice little droppers, and there are several colors available in this watercolor series. And then what I wanted to do is add a bit of metallic, so I'm going to go to the gold and just put a few little droplets of the gold down. Next thing you want to do is you want to have a little palette knife available. I'm using the one from the Tim Holtz collection, and you're going to go side to side, just turning that knife so that it stays nice and straight and perpendicular when you're running that through. And you can see it starts to create this marble design. Now I've got that glossy cardstock. I'm going to put it glossy side down right into that ink. I like to wait a couple seconds just for that ink to transfer onto the cardstock, and then you'll peel that up. And what you want to do now is grab your stencil pal, and you're going to scrape off any of that excess shaving cream. And look at how pretty this is. Now keep in mind, every single one of these comes out completely different. I did not have any come out the same. I thought what I was going for was this red, blue, and gold combination. But in the end, you'll see when I switch to the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I kind of like use the ink that's already on the paper plate, that I get this really subtle look. So I wanted to show you this one, and again you can see that gold shimmer in there, which is really pretty. And don't worry if the whole background isn't perfect, because in this case I'm just using it to create my ornaments. So I don't need a real lot of it. It's not going to be a complete background. I can pick and choose the areas I like best. You can see that I sprayed on some of the shaving cream, and since that was running a little bit low, I just kind of spread it out a little bit so I could get a little bit more out of it. I thought there was plenty of shaving cream in there when I started, but this worked out just fine. As long as you have a nice thin layer of the shaving cream, you should be fine. Now this time I've got the same three colors. So again, this is kind of the color combination that I was going for, but I thought I would do a few different a few different times just to see if I got some different results. So certainly mix up your colors. This would be fun with your pinks and purples and yellows and all of those fun colors. But again, I kind of wanted to stick to this combination. So now I've switched over to that Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock just to see if I can get a little softer version of this. Again, I like to wait a little bit, let that ink transfer to my cardstock, and now we can go ahead and scrape away that excess. And what's nice about using the paper plates is you can just set that aside when you're done with it and grab another plate. You don't have to keep getting up and washing all of your containers out. So now you can see the second one is also really pretty and still has that little gold shimmer to it. But what I saw there, I thought was so beautiful right there in that shaving cream. So I'm going to do a second generation and pick up that ink that was left over. And I'm going to stick with that Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock because I was going for a more subtle look. And I thought the glossy cardstock was just a little bit too bright for me. The colors were a little brighter on there. So then I scraped away that ink on this second generation, and look at this. This is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I just couldn't believe when that came out. Sometimes you just get really excited about things, and that just made me really happy. But I'm going to set these other two aside, and I can use these on another project. Actually, these would be great for your larger ornaments. Now here's a piece I'm going to be using today. And there's that little second piece, which I didn't think marbleized quite as well. So now I've got the Bulb Ornament Infinity die set from Hero Arts, and I'm going to grab a couple sizes here. We'll do two of this larger one and one of the smaller one. And I'm just going to line that up whatever way I like best in that marbling. So just kind of play around with that and see what areas you like best. And then I'll go ahead and tape those down with a little bit of Post-it tape and run that through the Sizzix Sidekick machine. And again, this was just so much fun to do. I mean, if you are going to sit for an afternoon and play, just do a whole bunch of these. I was kind of in a hurry to get these done for the cards, so I only made those few backgrounds that you saw there, but this would be a fun afternoon project. And then you just put them all away. You could do a whole bunch of different colors and have them ready to go. And sometimes if your creativity is a little bit off, this is a great way to just take your mind off onto something else and regenerate your creativity. Now for the little topper, I'm going to use the Hero Arts glitter paper, and I think I'll use that silver for all three of these. And what I'm going to do is basically just cut the top part of the ornament. So I've got, again, two of the larger ones and one of the smaller one. And then we could just trim away any excess. And that'll fit right on the top of our ornaments. So let's do another one of the large one. And then we'll do that smaller one as well. So do keep in mind that all of the products I'm using today are listed and linked down below and also on my blog. And what I did off camera also was to die cut one extra of each of these ornaments out of some white Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. And we're going to glue these back to back. I just thought that would give each of these ornaments a little bit more substance. And then we can glue those little toppers. And I just thought these marble ornaments were just absolutely so beautiful. It reminds me of the ones when you put the paint down in the ornament and you swirl it around and you get that really pretty marbleized ornament. So I was kind of trying to replicate that, and I thought this pattern really worked well. So again, I'll glue the rest of these together. And we can glue on the toppers. I'm just putting something heavy on those to let those dry. So now that those are dry, I'm grabbing my Infinity dies. These are the rectangle dies from Hero Arts. I've again got some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm going to run this through the die cutting machine. Now keep in mind, when you're using a rectangle or a square, it's much better to put your die on an angle. It'll run through your die cutting machine a lot easier. Let's remove that foam pad from the Misti stamp positioner because we are going to be using a thick rubber stamp. So I'm going to place this up just a little bit. I want to make sure I get a full stamping. And I've got the Hero Arts Bold Prints Starry Night Brushstroke stamp, and I just love this. I think this could be used for wind or snow or water. So I love when stamps do many different things. So don't just think of it as a starry night. I really think you could use it even just as a beautiful background. I've got my Pink and Main anti-static, and I'm going to place that around the back because we are going to be doing some embossing. And I'm also going to be using an embossable ink, which is the Versamark Watermark ink pad. And I want to make sure I place plenty of that all over this stamp. I'm just kind of patting it on. And then let's go ahead and press this out. I'm using this Stampendable stamp pressing tool. Just make sure I get a nice even stamping. So let's go ahead and grab some embossing powder. Again, and I've just got a piece of scrap paper there so I can just kind of shake off any excess powder. And this is the white satin pearl from Hero Arts, and this is beautiful. It's got a really pretty pearlized look to it. I do want to sprinkle it on all over. I'll just tap off any excess. And then of course we can put that extra back in the container. And then just kind of flick the back of this panel just to knock off any excess powder. So let's put that back. And now we can go ahead and heat set this panel. I did heat up the heat tool a little bit in advance just to make sure it was nice and warm. I'm going to start on the back and then move to the front. And then I will give you a closer look at this because it is just absolutely gorgeous once it's embossed. And again, you could just leave this background just like this. I mean, this would be beautiful as a background to a card with maybe a simple sentiment. So you can see that pearlized look to this. Now let's grab the Summer Sky. These are the Hero Arts Core inks, and I have the little mini ink pads. And I am going to grab one of the smaller Hero Arts blending brushes. I'm going to start off by going around all 4 sides. And then what we'll do is bring that ink in towards the center, but very lightly. So again, I'm going to have it a little darker around the edges, and then I'm just going to use the ink that's left over on that brush and just start pulling that in towards the middle. And keep in mind that the embossing that we already have will act as a resist, so it won't change the color of your embossed area. And we will use a dry towel to buff off any of that excess ink that's sitting up on top. You do want to buff that off because it just won't dry on top of the embossing. And then it brings back that really pretty, vibrant white pearl, and you can see that there. So let's set that aside. I've got this beautiful stamp set from Hero Arts. This is the Ornament Peekaboo Infinity Parts stamp set, and look at all these beautiful ornaments you get. You get a little ribbon for the top and some sentiments. We're just going to be using 3 of those sentiments today, and we're going to be using peace, love, and joy. Let's go ahead and place these ornaments right down in the Mini Misti stamp positioner. And I'm just using a little bit of temporary tape to hold those in place. Then I can line up my sentiments, and then we can stamp these all at one time. We're going to be embossing these as well. And so let's go back to that anti-static powder. Place a little bit on each of these ornaments. And then I've again got that Versamark Watermark ink pad. We're going to go ahead and ink these up. We can quickly stamp these, and then we're going to add some embossing powder to these. This time we're going to be using the Liquid Platinum from Ranger, and if you guys watch my videos, you know that's one of my all-time favorite embossing powders. I mean, I have to say I've been using this for probably 30 years now. I just absolutely love it. It's a little bit different than a silver. It really does look like liquid platinum once it's embossed. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So let's go ahead and heat these up. I've got my heat tool, and again, I'm going to apply a little bit of heat to both sides, and then we can quickly emboss these. And look how beautiful this is. I love these ornaments. I love the marbling. At this point, I'm just really having a great time with the whole process of this. And you can get a closer look at that beautiful embossing. Next for colors, I'll grab the Hero Arts Core Ink in Cotton Candy. And these core inks are a water-based ink. And what I decided to do was add a little edging around these ornaments. So I had already placed those toppers on. Now you could certainly do this before you place your topper on. But since I had already done that, I'm using a little bit of Post-it tape, and I'm just going to protect that little silver part of the ornament, and then I can go right around the edges. And then once I'm done, I can just remove that Post-it tape. And that will kind of define the edges of our ornaments a little bit better. I thought this color would be really pretty against that kind of blue background that we have. So I did that for all three. Now I've got the Tim Holtz Sizzix Thinlits. These are the Holiday Greens. I'm going to grab that one there, and I'm going to die cut this 3 times out of some Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And what we're going to be doing is stacking these up. I wanted a nice thick branch to hang my 3 ornaments from. And we're also going to be adding some paste to this. So I wanted to make sure that I was working with a nice thick surface. So I'm using my Tim Holtz pick tool just to pop out those little pieces. And then again off camera, I die cut a couple more of those. Now we can go ahead and glue these together. And I'm just going to take a little time there to stack those up. And sometimes I like to grab my tweezers. Just makes it a little easier to kind of pinch these little areas right exactly where they need to be. And I can set that aside to dry. Place something heavy on there. Once it was dry, I grabbed my little sculpting mat from Sizzix. And I'm just using one of the ball tools that comes with this mat. I think you get 3 tools and a pair of scissors with this set. And this will just allow me to curl up those edges of the branches just a little bit for a little dimension. Now I'm going to use the White Pearl Hero Arts paste. So this is going to coordinate really nicely with the white satin pearl embossing powder that we already used. And I want to show you that up close how beautiful that is. And it's got a really creamy consistency to it. So it's going to go on very easily. And I'm just placing it kind of on these branches, sort of on the tips of the branches. And I'm placing it on the thicker side because I want it to look a little bit snowy and just give that branch a little bit more dimension. And then once I have that on there, I'm going to go ahead and set that aside to dry. Now I've got the Doc P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof ink, and I'm going to put some right onto my acrylic block. You could certainly put it right onto your glass media mat, but I wanted to show you, I know I had a few questions about spattering, and I wanted to show you another technique. You can place that ink right onto your acrylic block with a little bit of water, and then just using a small paintbrush, you can just kind of flick that ink down onto your project. So that is another way. If you're having a little difficulty with spattering, you might want to try this technique. And that just adds a little more interest to our background. Let's also grab a piece of cardstock, the Hero Arts Paradise cardstock, and we're going to make a standard A2 size card, which will measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Just pressing that out with the bone folder. And now let's add a bit more dimension to these ornaments by using these small adhesive foam dots. These are from scrapbook.com. And I'm going to just place those all around the back so this sits up nicely on our card. And then for ribbon, I've just got some really pretty blue baker's twine, and I am going to slide that kind of behind the ornament. I'm going to place a little bit of glue back here, and then I'm going to just pinch that with my reverse tweezers and let that dry. So I did that for all 3 of those. And next we can add this panel to the front of our card. Let's place plenty of glue on the back of this, and then we'll just line these 2 up. And so I've got my little twine attached there. And what I want to do is attach each of these to the back of this branch. And again, since this branch is nice and thick, it's going to be fine underneath here. So I'll place a little dot of glue, and then probably took a little bit of time just to make sure these were lined up nicely. And then once I glued that down, I just again took those reverse tweezers just to hold those in place until they dried. And then once they were dry, I can just add some little dots of glue to the back of this branch, and we can glue this whole piece down. So I want to pull those nice and taut. And then I also decided to grab some Hero Hues enamel dots. These are the clear ones. And I'm going to kind of sprinkle those around the background. It'll just kind of look like little icy pieces, little snowflakes. Again, just trying to add more interest. I did tie a little bow with that twine, and I'm going to just pop that right over top of that ornament on the left. And then I've got these really pretty jewels. These are from Pink Fresh Studio, and these are part of the Essential Jewels mix. And I'm going to pop these on almost like little berries on our branch. And these will add a lot of sparkle, and they're just so pretty. And they do come in 3 different sizes, so it's really nice to mix up those sizes. So let's take a closer look at the finished card. You can see that little bit of paste we have on the branches, that beautiful background, and look at the marbling on these ornaments. I don't know, I just really loved it. I hope you guys enjoyed this technique. And if you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.